Alex? Alex.
Three writer-directors, 2 cast members and 1 location. We are talking Dream Eater, a Canadian found footage movie from 2025. So what's Dream Eater all about? It's about a couple where the guy is suffering from debilitating kind of sleep disorders. He is hurting himself through sleepwalking, talking to people, and this couple decide to go to a remote location, this kind of cabin in the woods, to try and have a bit of a break. But things seem to get worse whilst he's there. Alex, our male, seems to be getting more violent, and his sleepwalking is becoming more extreme and doing weird things. And there may well be a demonic force at work. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, it is a small-scale found footage movie. There are a couple of other cast members. Actually, this is just like a voice on the phone or a Zoom call. It really only has 2 actors in the actual story as a main. What can we say that works in this movie's favour? I do think for such a kind of simple movie, it does have some spooky elements here. The kind of, I mean, you can kind of see the writing on the wall, if I'm honest, where this movie is going. But that doesn't stop it from having some kind of psychological horror and that kind of the inevitable build-up and when that kind of the hammer drops at the end of the day, because you kind of can see where it's all headed. But it still doesn't stop it from being a little bit unnerving at times, and I think it's also helped by some fairly decent performances. Now, I would say the strongest is our male lead, Alex, the character. Fairly strong performance, I would say, who gives an interesting performance. I think this might even be his first role, to be honest, but where he's oscillating between kind of being possessed but then being himself. And then our female, the girlfriend, still I think maybe not quite as strong, but does a decent enough job, I would say, in the acting roles. But they're both believable enough where you can kind of buy into their sort of characters. Because this is really a 2-person show, it's very dialogue driven. But I didn't think the dialogue was clunky or anything like that. It did seem sort of like quite sort of naturalistic. The banter between the two of them, I thought, seems quite genuine at times. I had some critique of the chemistry between these 2 actors, but I actually thought it was fine, if I'm not completely honest with you. I mean, arguably you could say this woman should have packed up and gone when things were really kind of starting to get a little hairy. But it is what it is. This is the film that we've got. But I thought the kind of the acting was solid. The kind of the sense of isolation was came through in this kind of location that they had kind of chosen, and it has an interesting mythology as the film goes on. You'll learn more about, obviously, the circumstance which has brought this couple to this kind of situation, and the mythology and the potential supernatural forces that are behind it. We kind of get one money shot. That's really all we get in regards to on-screen sort of horror, but it's fairly decent, the one shot that we do get. I won't going to give away really what happens with the context, but I think it saved its kind of like it's time for this one shot. There's quite a lot of kind of jump scares and stuff. It's one of these movies. It is a found footage. It does have a little bit of kind of music though, which on the upswing of it makes it so the kind of the drama is heightened because it has a soundtrack. But that leads me to what doesn't work. Is one of these films that kind of cheats in regards to the found footage conceit. The fact that we have musical swells and stuff. It kind of goes at odds with the believability, so to speak, of found footage. One of the conceits of the found footage method is that you have this suspension of disbelief where you can buy into what you are watching is found footage, but when you have things like, you know, a soundtrack to it, it kind of lessens the impact to a degree. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, that one. Now, the movie itself isn't a particularly flashy film. It is a very dialogue-driven film. Most of the plot points are given through exposition, and that's really it. So there's a few sort of jump scares and kind of creepier moments where Alex is kind of standing around acting weird, and you know, our kind of female character is kind of freaking out and stuff. But the actual bulk of the information that's given to us as the audience is just through dialogue sequences, through the couple, or through like the therapist, or an author, and things like this. So you know, it's a very much a film that is telling you rather than showing you. You know, we get a little bit of archive footage from this plot point that will come up later, but for the most part, it's just, you know, a whole bunch of kind of exposition, to be honest. I have to say, the end of the movie, you know, it's when you see the very finale of it, you can kind of guess where it's going to go. I think it's fairly obvious. I think the movie is effective in what is clearly a very low budget movie. It's co-produced by Eli Roth, but it's obviously a somewhat low tech affair here. I mean, there's really very little on screen in regards to anything sort of you know, expensive or anything like that. And as I say, the cast is extremely small, but you know, it's not exactly a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak. And I think it does have some watchability. I think the performances are strong. Even though I think a lot of it is delivered by exposition, nonetheless, I do think the story is interesting. But because it's so sort of insular in regards to its storytelling, one location, two characters, most of the kind of the information is just sort of given to us via dialogue. It does end up becoming a little dull at times, and again, maybe one of the drawbacks of having a found footage, you can't have like other locations and other characters doing different things, but you have to kind of write around that. As it stands, I think the movie's okay. You know, it's an alright found footage movie. It's nothing special, but what it did do, I think, was interesting enough to maybe give it a one-time watch, I would potentially say. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.